So yeah, I'm Craig Livingstone, farm manager at Lockerley. Been here 5 years. Beforehand was an agronomist with Agri for 5 years, and then before that was a sort of development farm manager. So keen to be back on this side of the fence, but thoroughly enjoyed learning the agronomy side as well. So do you want to just click on to the next slide, or can I do it?
I did it for you.
Oh, there we go. Cool. So just a little bit about Lockerley. So there's 2 farms now that come together. So we crop about 1,400 hectares, but specifically at this farm, it's 800. We've got working woodland. We've got a small shoot, a reducing firewood business because it wasn't making any money. Got a big higher tier SAC, triple SIs, and kind of conservation part of the estate. We've got a joint venture sheep flock that run the farm. We don't own any livestock, but we work in partnership, so we put in some labour, and there's a relationship there. So we get the benefit of the livestock, but none of the risk. The same with some cattle, and our fairly strong community outreach thing, which has been a little bit scuppered because of COVID. We've also just introduced a 50-acre wilding part to the estate, which is a bit different for us and something we're really having to learn because it's not a language I speak, but the whole principle of just doing nothing is quite interesting, but we'll see how we go. Cool, move on. There we go. So this one was a little bit, as far as like the organisation and planning, this was something we kind of looked at. It's a little bit corporate for me, but it's something which we've come back to time and time again in the last kind of quarterly meetings that we have. So we didn't really have a vision as a business. We didn't agree on some strategic aims or objectives, how we're going to get there, and we didn't really flesh any of that out. So we had a lot of forced change, i.e. we had to pretty much build a new farmyard, and some of the different things, logistics of the farm, which either didn't exist or were falling down 5 years ago. So we should have done this 5 years ago, but forced change is one thing, but plan change is something different. So how we look forward with some of the challenges our industry faces. So it was a really healthy thing to do. So some people, I'm sure some of you have already done it, but it was great for us. And if you haven't done it, I'd encourage anyone to. So this is set the kind of mantra for what we do at Lockerley. So if we move on to each bit individually. Organisation and planning, again, I'm sure you've all got this on your farms or whatever business you're involved in. This just sets the basis. I kind of think a farm manager or estate manager that's protective about you're the only person that can see certain things. I suppose that's up to you, but that's not how I work it. I want anybody to pretty much walk in the farm office. They can know when grain contracts are moving. They can know what we've sold it for, know what the on-farm trials are, have access to our farm carbon calculator, update our training record. It doesn't all have to be me. And I think if ever I'm not here, I think it's great that people have got the ability to see what's happening. Financially, we do it every quarter. We speak with the team and we update everybody where we are. So when you come to do things like appraisals and raises, there's no surprise that when they see that the farm is in a tricky position or is in a good, strong position, we share some information like that to kind of set the tone for how important taking opportunities are in the field, not missing chances, all those sorts of things. So that kind of real transparent approach has worked for us. So just a few pictures, examples of some of the different things that we do. So this one's a bit more important to us because it's something we can really influence at Lockerley. We came from when I came here, it was a lot of wheat rape, some wheat barley rape, and they just introduced oats to a maximum of 4-year rotation. We've really shoved that out to sort of 8 to 9 years now. We've dropped all seed rape because we were the most furthest west farm with 100% resistance to cabbage stem flea beetle. We do our own agronomy. We take decisions in house and try and go from there because we find not that we don't accept advice, but we need to be in a position to at least discuss it or challenge it. So soil and fertility management for us, or soil management and fertility building, is key. So integrating the sheep, getting the cover crops on the farm. We've got 2 drilling techniques. We've got the new Vercar direct drill, and we've also got a Vadostat, which works behind a shallow cultivator, a carrier or a top down. importing compost, importing muck for straw with a local neighbour. So we're taking 2,000-3,000 tonnes of product in. Obviously the cattle in the shed and bits and bobs. Detailed soil analysis. We've got six satellite stations around the estate, which we test every year. Some people say it's pointless to do it every year, but for us, we really want to see what influence we're having on the farm, what's positive and perhaps what isn't, what's hosting certain things in the soil, what isn't hosting certain things. And it's quite evident already, 5 years in, some of this stuff. We did start off a low base, but some of this stuff is evident already. Yeah, this one to us is really important. There we are. So crop health and protection. Again, we're not. I just don't think we're doing anything massively clever. When I came here, we were growing a wheat variety. We've got their Reflection and Kielder. They're filthy. They're dirty. They've got high yield potential, but we never got close to it. I inherited a crop here that we did just under 8 tonne a hectare average. We've now been 4 years consistently 10.5 tonne a hectare. We've gone to, in theory, lower yielding varieties, but we've spent 41% less on pesticides in 5 years, 32% less on fertilizer. So you start linking that to your carbon budgets and other parts of this wheel, they're quite significant reductions. And that's just by putting things in at the right time, finding the right crop protection program, using resistant or tolerant varieties, putting threshold traps out. And again, I think some of that comes back to making your own decision, because we know our capacity, we know the risk level we're happy to take, and we're not insurance spraying because it's expensive, and B, we don't need to, because the variety is a product in the tank for us, is the way we look at it. So where we're based in Stockbridge, we're kind of west, south, central England. We know Septoria is going to knock us, so we pick a Septoria resistant variety, Rust. That conversation is about 30 seconds and it ends in tebuconazole. So it's basically not something we have to worry about. So we kind of get our rotation square, and then we match the variety to the agronomy and go from there. This one, I suppose, is necessary for everybody, the basic stuff of removing plastics or stock, silage netting and bits and bobs. When we constructed our spray store, we went to 200% of the sprayer capacity, and we kind of made sure it was as up to date as it could be for the time. So we took some capital grants from mid-tier to do some of that, and but that's a one-off. The one thing I look at really for pollution control management, it doesn't really fit in the, well, I suppose it overlaps, but the cover crops are a huge part of our system, and if we look over 2 years, and if I look this year, our cover crops are, some of them are nearly waist high in places. The capture of nutrients that they've captured already is massive. So look at MP and K, the numbers at the bottom there. We've looked at between, I think it's an average of about £90 as in cash pounds per hectare's worth of nutrients when you compare that to your pence per kilogram of MP and K. So not only is the nutrient capture, but it's not going into water, or it's not going into the air, or it's not being mineralized at the wrong time. So some of that's being removed in the sheep, and the sheep are in good condition, the lambs are in good condition, but most of all, our spring barley, we've reduced our nitrogen by nearly just about 30%, 28%, and again, that's because we're capturing that nutrients in the cover crop and recycling it. So it's all good. So we don't have, like I say, we don't own our own sheep, and we don't own our own cattle, but my wife's on the left, and so they're just tagging and marking lambs. So we're heavily involved. We're heavily involved with the lambing. We love it, and it's something we enjoy doing. We don't have the full skill set, and we don't have the time to have 1,200 of our own sheep. So we've got a local shepherd that runs sheep on our farm. It's a real good synergy with that. But what we're also doing, we're providing him with clean grazing. Every year we're providing him with grass lays, which we otherwise couldn't manage. Obviously, by using sheep, we've reduced our glyphosate significantly compared to burning off cover crops. We get the natural fertility, so reduce our fertilizer, and again, it's all easy stuff to say, but we are reducing it. So if you start overlaying simply what we've captured in the cover crops, that's more than the 40 or 50 pence per head per week that we would normally charge a shepherd for grazing. So it's not just about me, the arable farmer, winning every time, it's the synergy. So but to some of you guys and girls who've got livestock, this will probably mean more to you than it probably does to us. So water management, again, we don't have a water course on the farm, but we're part of the Walletbrook Farmers, which is a catchment project, 21 farms covering 5,000 hectares. And we've got everything from biodynamic, organic, extensive arable, slightly more intensive arable. Some farms are completely in stewardship schemes within the catchment. The one thing that links us all is the chalk stream that's 3 miles away from us here. So what we do on this farm directly influences the water that surrounds us. So things like where we place our mid-tier options, how we surround the extremities of our farm, what we do with runoff, all those sorts of things, where we store our muck heaps, all the real basic stuff. It's just good farming practice. But when you link it to the chalk stream that runs through the valley, we become far more involved. So again, we don't have reservoirs. If some of you are in the East Coast, you've got your own water reservoirs, you've got your own streams and rivers and lakes on your farm forever. We don't have that, but obviously, so water management isn't the top of our list of 9 things on the IFM wheel, but we're fully aware of how we can influence it from Lockerley. So landscape and nature, it's a massive part of our landowner and us are really keen on developing and expanding the diversity of the estate. So some of the best advice that we've had in the last 5 years has come from non-farming organisations. So things like the Wildlife Trust, the Hawk Conservancy at Andover, people that farmers wouldn't naturally be linked with. We've had lots of volunteers on the farm giving us information which we never knew existed. So we're now of national significance for arable flora, again, which we didn't know until we had a volunteer inspect it. The owl boxes and kestrel boxes we put around the farm, which were all given to us by the Conservancy, we've now got amazing results. So some of this stuff, the baseline surveys that we were keen to take, we've taken, so we can now start, we didn't hear nightingales on the farm 3 years ago, and we now have. So we've obviously created a habitat. And that's kind of replicated for lots of different things. Pond surveys that we've changed, done works on ponds and things. So 5 full-time people on this farm. If you said 5 full-time people for 800 hectares of arable, you'd say you've got way too many people and you're too heavy. But you spread them across 600 acres of woodland and pond restoration and all that stuff. And you then get a sensible payment for higher tier and such options. We can justify all that additional work. Again, that's just a couple of pictures. We've planted 7,000 hedges, which again we do it ourselves. So I know if you get a gang in, they do a lot more than us. But in the last 2 years, that's quite a lot of work, and just some of the other improvements we've made around the estate. It's our hedge cutting policy we've completely changed. The way things fruit, how we don't touch anything for that hungry gap for birds. It's all part of the same story, which is working. And then community engagement. So yeah, it's something that I'm really keen on that. I've got 2 young kids, and they love outside learning. So it's great to have the relationship with local schools. But then we've got the new vegetable enterprise that we've got on the farm. That'll grow up to 2 acres by the end of next year. We've got planning permission for 4 polytunnels. Obviously the events we run with Leaf, but we've had chefs on the farm trying to have that relationship. The bottom picture, there's a ewe being lambed with DEFRA watching, which was hilarious. And then apart from that, we had a community hedge planting day, which was again just an idea of earn your ploughmans, and we literally had 55 people come out to plant hedges, and it was really good. So it's nice to be part of the community, not just lead events. So which is great. And then just in summary, some of the stuff I've kind of rattled through in the last 15 minutes. Some of what we're doing, some of what we're changing, but there's some significant changes. I would just say, I kind of finished off, Leaf mustn't be a comfort blanket for people who think it's a soft touch for the kind of greenwash. It's not, it shouldn't be, it isn't a comfort blanket. It's, we've done nothing, I don't think we've done anything particularly special. We've done nothing that's cost us any more money than what we'd have spent. We've just looked at things. used the IFM thing as almost like a little decision-making chart and linked it to our principles. And yeah, I think we've had some good results. We're still learning. Everything's not right. I wish it was, but yeah,